Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Chitchat with Chakesha and Chauna.
I'm Chauna.
And I'm Chakesha. And we're glad to be back with you today. We will have another show breaking down a lot of important issues in our community, things that affect our community voice, our schools, our children. So we want you to pay attention because this show is going to be an important one.
Yes, this is very important. Not only do we want you to have a better understanding of what's going on in the legislature, we want to empower you and let you know you actually have a voice, and your voice does make a difference.
Yeah, so let's start with something that needs your attention right now,
Yeah.
and that is Senate Bill 65. So, as you can remember from some of our prior show, we talked about Senate Bill 65, and what Senate Bill 65 does is reduce the threshold or lower the threshold of what it takes to convert a traditional public school into a charter school.
So this is very, very important. It's happening in real time. And
Mhm.
Chakesha, it's just this morning I read a post from someone that works for a charter operator and wanted to know how much time should they have be given as to whether or not they'll be invited back. And that is one of the reasons we really need to be protective of our traditional public schools because stability and the lack thereof is a real problem.
Yes, so that bill actually just cleared the Senate committee on last week, and it will be read on Monday on the Senate floor for the second reading. So be sure to call your senators today to voice your opinion about that bill. The concerns of that bill is, as you may know, the school in Monroe, which is where I believe it started at,
Liville.
Neville
Mhm.
High School. It's an A-rated school in Monroe, North Louisiana. And there was a small group that wanted to convert that public school into a charter school. So the law says that 50% of the parents have to vote yes, and 50% of the parents, more than 50% of the parents have to vote. So the LDOE struggled with getting those votes in, and but they did get them in, and 50% of the over 50% of the parents said no.
Right.
So that project was not able to move forward. So what this bill would do is remove that barrier to where 50% of the parent vote is no longer required. It's just a simple majority. So whoever shows up. So if only 20 parents show up to vote by the deadline, then the majority of
Right.
20, that will be the voice on whether that conversion move forward or happens or not. So
Yeah.
it should not be that easy to convert a traditional public school because with that mechanism, a lot of families may not even know there's a vote taking place. If they send the communication home in backpacks, or if you don't get the communication for whatever reason by the deadline, you can miss the opportunity of your voice being heard, and your school can be converted without your input and without the community's will. So it's very important that, if anything, we raise the threshold and
Right.
not lower the threshold.
Yes, folks, this is one of those times that we're living in a climate where your individual voice is important. I know traditionally we would say, well, that's what the senators are for, that's
Mhm.
what the state representatives are for, the school board members, our superintendents. But we are living in a time where all those positions are, really under a lot of political pressure. So we
Mhm.
really need you as individuals to call your senator, let them know to vote no, ask them to vote no. We will post the names
Mhm.
and the phone numbers
Yeah,
or
we'll put the link
emails.
above or below
Yes,
our posts, as we always do, so you can easily have access to contact your
please,
senator and
please,
speak.
please vote.
Because, yeah, let's put this in context of EBR. If this
Yeah.
bill passes, that means any school in the state that is traditionally governed by your local school district, where you elect your school board officials,
Hmm.
let's say EBR, all they have to do is have a vote at the school. And whoever shows up, and before you know it, that small group can be en route to transform that public school into a charter school. Now, once that vote happens, they do have to apply to the local school board for the charter application. And if the local school board says no, then they have the right to apply to Bessie and be told yes. So
Yeah.
again, a lot of times those is possible. Not saying that this would happen, but
But this is how it
it
begins.
begins with these small groups influencing a particular parent groups to get it all, to get it done,
Mm-hmm.
where the likelihood of them getting a yes at the school board level or even the Bessie level could be more likely than you think. So it's
Right.
very important that we don't reduce the threshold of having over 50% of parent voice whether they want that to happen or not. So in case it does happen, it reflects the majority of what that community wants.
And really, this is something that if you look at the city of Baker,
Mm-hmm.
though that was a volunteer, but if this mechanism would have been in place, it wouldn't have even gone to the school. It wouldn't it not have been in the hands of the school board
Well,
members.
the difference between what took place in Baker,
Hmm.
those were what's called Type 3
Yeah.
charter conversions. So that means the school board that the constituents in Baker elected did that on their own. They made a
Right.
decision to convert their public schools that they govern
Hmm.
into charter schools. This would be a conversion initiated by a lay members of the
Sure.
community
Hmm.
or a small group of teachers, parents, constituents. It can be an alumni group that's in a community formed or even a neighborhood group that's formed to initiate a conversion. So it's one thing when the conversion is initiated by your local school board, but when it's initiated by a group of lay members that the other community members may know nothing about, it
Yes.
can be a slippery slope.
And my point is only that, as school board members, there's certain amount of where they're responsible and
Mm-hmm.
accountability. But as you indicated, anyone if SB 65, anyone can make this big jump.
Mm-hmm.
And like I've seen it happen as it relates to even landfills. So,
Oh,
that's what we
absolutely.
want you to know. Please, please, please vote no. I'm sorry, call
For your
your
senators
senators,
and ask
ask
them to
them to
vote
vote no
no for
this week.
Senate Bill
Start today,
65.
SB 65.
Yes.
All righty.
Yes.
So this is a hot topic regarding
Of what we are talking about.
SB 245.
Is it 245 or
Yes.
256?
The clerk of court?
Yeah, I think it's 256, even though I don't have
Yeah.
245 here. But
We
yeah,
could look it up. But go
yeah,
on and give us let me
yeah.
see.
So while we look
Mhm.
at that, let's talk about what's going on in New Orleans regarding a clerk of court bill. So this bill would remove or eliminate a position where there was, I can't think of the guy's name.
Calvin Duncan?
Calvin Duncan.
Yeah.
Yes, he was just recently elected for this position. And now a bill is being filed that will eliminate the position before he even could take office. And it's being filed by Jay Morris, which is very similar to the bill of reducing the number of judges in New Orleans. And in those bills, it does allow for the elected officials to finish out their terms.
SB 256.
So yeah, it's
Mhm.
SB 256, this bill, and it
Mhm.
does allow the elected officials to finish out their term. So from what we're understanding, they are trying to hurry up and get this bill through so he won't even start the term, so he won't be able to start and finish out the term. They're trying to file it where he don't even get a chance to start.
And one of the things that we brought up a lot about Jay Mars,
Yeah.
he's from West Monroe.
Mm-hmm.
He's from West Monroe. Why? What is the interest? And
Mm-hmm.
why? This has to be a politically motivated bill. and all of New Orleans. I did see the newly elected mayor there, and I know that they're responding, but this is an atrocity, and really and truly, it is so. A lot of people are shocked. You hear
Mm-hmm.
evil, but when I think about it, and people are going to say, why are you going there? What is more evil than slavery?
Yeah.
What is more evil than so we're talking about people who are not everybody, but a race of people who when in power have always had no limits as to what they would do when it came to an African American.
Mm-hmm.
That's just America, black and white. And so I'm not surprised. It's just now they are able to use it not with a whip, but with legislation.
Yeah, when
And
you put it
so
like that,
I'm
yeah.
I'm really not surprised. But the thing is, I would hope that in our Senate there are more good people
Yeah.
than bad. They
Yeah.
they don't have they don't have the luxury of wearing white hoods. And so because of that, because we know how you vote, that in somehow will make a difference.
Yeah, I completely agree. From my understanding, it has passed out of committee
Right,
and out of the Senate, and it does have to go to the House.
right,
So this is one of those bills that we're watching very closely. Hopefully, there are enough representatives in the House that feels or believe that this bill is wrong in nature, or even I'll say has an undertone of being malicious in nature,
right.
and don't allow something like this to happen. When we talk about saving $27,000 to that, because that's their justification, to a multi-million dollar budget, especially with actions in line items in the budget that
Hmm.
can easily save $27,000. That doesn't eliminate an entire position in a judicial system that's already stressed in New Orleans because of
Right.
their high
High
level of
crime.
crime and their caseload. It is just very, it's insensitive, in my opinion. It's very disrespectful to the people and the leaders of New Orleans because they have expressed boldly and loudly that they don't want this. And hopefully, the legislators could unite and be respectful of those Senate leaders and representative leaders for that district, and make sure that they're doing what's in the best interest of those communities and allowing those leaders to lead and make decisions on what's in the best interest of their communities.
Usually at the end of our show, we will do a spotlight on someone that did really, really well. And though, there's not a different bill that I would say that during this debate,
Mm-hmm.
Senator Royce Duplessis was very, very vocal. And that just, now that this is moving to the House, and this is for Democrats, you need to learn to speak on every item. It is time out for Democrats who just vote a certain way. You should speak out, and not in redundancy,
Mm-hmm.
but speak out with make it with use your voice, activate your voice, not just pressing a button, and speak out on every Democrat,
Mm-hmm.
everyone in New Orleans, everyone that could be in West Monroe or any part of Monroe. Speak on these
Mm-hmm.
issues. Don't just let one person carry the water and then you vote because you feel defeated or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. Speak.
Mm-hmm.
Please start speaking out on every item. And don't just
Mm-hmm.
speak to be sensitive. Make it impactful, make it meaningful, and make it sharp.
Yeah, totally agree, Chana. Thank you so much for that. Now, next, I would love to talk about the upcoming election. So,
Oh
the
yeah.
upcoming May 16th election. So, there are 5 amendments that everyone is going to have to vote on, regardless of party. And speaking of party, and speaking of the May 16th election, we encourage everyone to, one, go check to see if your voter registration is active. They have just recently purged over 500,000 voters. Some are active voters that have been purged. I don't know if it was an error or what mechanism they use to determine who would be purged. But we will also share that link with you as well to make sure that you check whether you are still active or if you've been placed on the inactive list. Um, Next, we want to encourage you to determine whether you want options on who are you going to vote for U.S. Congress. Now that Louisiana is approaching its first closed party primary election, you only can vote first in your party to determine who gets to go to the final round of becoming U.S. Congress or U.S. Senator. So if you are still undecided, you can change your party to no party. That's the name of the designation. And that way you can choose whether you want to vote for a Republican candidate or a Democratic candidate. If you are currently registered as a Democrat, you only can vote for those Democratic candidates. If you're only registered as a Republican, you can only vote for those Republican candidates. So it's important that to make sure you're positioned to try to increase the likelihood of the person you want to move forward ultimately in that seat, that you leave your options open and change your party to no party.
So once again, to you, what you're saying, for this is for the general audience. You should go by, what is that date? To determine, first of all, make sure that you are still on the road.
Yes.
But if you're on the road, I don't know if I haven't researched whether if you find that you're not on the road, what is the deadline, or what mechanisms? I guess we'll look at that and be able to tell you next week.
Yes.
But for now, if you are, check your party, make sure you're either a Republican, Democrat, or no party. From what I understand, I think it's called it's the first one, the general. The primary is May 16th, but that's not for the Congress.
Yeah.
It is?
Yeah. So I know you have the deadline to change your party is you have to do it 30 days before the election, but April 15th is the deadline if you're going to change it in person or by mail. But if you're going to use the app to change your party, you have until April 28th, I believe.
Okay.
But it's best to do it now to make sure that you're safe and you have those options.
All right. So we have the dates. The primary is May 16th.
Yes. So
okay, gotcha.
Yes. Now, just know whatever party, whatever candidate you choose, if you choose a Republican candidate, so for example, if you say I want to vote for Bill Cassidy, then you have to whichever Republican candidate make it to the runoff in June, you have to stick with voting for a Republican, or you can vote for nobody at all. So it's up to you. But again, if you want those initial options, it's best to change your party to no party.
And then they have the runoff. If there's a runoff, it would be June 27th. So May, June. Lots of elections. Yes. All right. You want to get to these amendments?
Yes, let's get to the amendments. So there are 5 amendments that are going to be on that same ballot with the U.S. Congress and the U.S. Senator. And we will break down each one so that you can understand what are you voting for.
And we want you to know that these are statewide elections. A lot of times when we hear elections, we think that they are just EBR or just in our area, but these are statewide. So from this information, please share with your family, friends, and relatives in social media all over the state to let them know, first of all, that there is an election, because this is one of those odd month elections on May 16th. And we'll start with amendment number 1.
So yes, amendment number 1. So I received, several of you reached out to me about amendment number 1 that are state employees. And right now, I know a lot of state employees are concerned about amendment 1. And everyone's hoping that this does not pass, because what it would do is remove those civil service protections for several of the job positions. So that means several, it will become from not classified to unclassified. So under civil service, most positions fall within those two categories, and unclassified positions are not protected by civil service and tenure, those rigid human resource requirements that protect jobs if there's any type of discipline or just all of those protections and benefits of working for the state. Versus unclassified is more of, it reflects that private sector.
Right.
So this bill wants to reduce the number of classified positions and make them unclassified, and that could get very political in those roles, and it could jeopardize the stability and of the people who are currently in those roles.
Right. So I actually put, what does this do? So what does Amendment 1 civil service power? So it gives the Louisiana legislature more control over which government jobs are protected. Again, as she said, civil service versus political unclassified. And both of us are former state workers. And one of the things that, what we have in place now is, you may get a department head as secretary of a department, the different assistant secretaries. You may have like just a few, but where the stability is like regional directors, district director. All of those can become political. And every time there's a change in who the governor is or who the senator, one of the things that what helps with civil service position is you continue with continuity, you continue with stability. The rules and the regulations of a career remain in place. How many times, I know I've heard it with, especially this last gubernatorial, you hear people saying they have no idea what they're doing, or it's a mess, or we don't know what's going on. And one of the things, and that having that at the top is one thing, but the training that goes into career employees, learning policy, like it's the back of your hand, keeping those things in place are very important. Having that threatened, I'm afraid.
Yeah, that can be very dangerous. Lots of state employees are at risk with this particular amendment. So
this is for opposition. These are some of the reasons why we just listed, and we'll definitely put it on our post. It weakens the protection of public employees by allowing more positions to become politically influenced.
or appointed.
Opens the door to favoritism, patronage, and political hiring and firing. Louisiana is already at will state. So add take away that civil service protection, you'll be afraid to buy a house because you don't know if you're going to have your job.
Exactly. And just to, again, just remind you how this all folds into legislation. This constitutional amendment stems from a bill that was passed last year in 2025. So now is making its way to the ballot this May for the people to vote on this constitutional amendment in order for them to make this change, or this bill from last year, take place.
Right. So right now, remember, vote no is what we're recommending for Amendment 1. Amendment number 1, civil service. It takes away, right now we have a merit-based civil service position. We have progressive discipline. All of that would go away if Amendment 1 passed. So pass that on to your friends and loved ones across the state.
Yes.
You want to hit us with Amendment 2?
Absolutely. So Amendment 2 is a very talked about amendment that I'm sure everyone is familiar with at this point, especially in East Baton Rouge, and that's the approval of the St. George school system. So as you're aware, St. George did break away as their own town, and now they are in their own city. Thank you. And now they want to have the school district to go with it. So similar as Zachary, Central, Baker, that they've done in the past. So in order for that to happen, this is that next step in their overall plan that they've been working on this plan for over a decade now. They need everybody in the state to vote um, yes in order for it to happen. So in order for it to be approved, they have to have over 50% of the state vote and over 50% of the people in East Baton Rouge Parish. They have to have both. It can't be either or. So a lot of people are concerned about this because they're saying that it will take away funding from the overall parish, from the EBR school district to St. George. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, locally, what we've just seen in just the city parish, like 70 some $1 million commitment to St. George, totally shook the city parish. So imagine EBR, which basically operates on a smaller budget, in comparison, more children that are at risk. Imagine that drain that it would take. I think when you want to break away, you should count the cost. And I just truly believe that in breaking away, still wanting other parts of the parish to take the blow for your financial woes or to save you is absolutely wrong. So again, this is another one of those bills where you're shifting funding, you're shifting control, and you're taking away students from East Baton Rouge Parish. Um, it's really causing a great drain. And you think about what is the reason for this. A lot of times we go back to Baker. When Baker's system, which was the first to do, it was a predominantly white area. But by the time it took to break away, it was predominantly Black, and there was a lot of white flight. Second came Zachary. If you look at it now, Zachary expanded its borders because based on the residential numbers, it would not qualify federally to be a city, a city school district. So they included a lot of that 964, which was nothing but vacant lands. So now you have a system where 964, you have thousands and thousands of homes coming up. Many of those are being bought by middle-class Black families. So right now, the very things that a lot of these breakaways are coming as a result of, it is due to racial issues. I constantly say we have now Central. See, a lot of people, Black people are moving to Central. We understand. I believe that the breakaways only work so long anyway, and you tear up and you weaken communities. And eventually, if there was just equitable funding for all communities, all school districts, a lot of this could be avoided. But right now, you leave EBR schools with a population of higher needs students and less funding.
So I guess this is where
biggest.
What do you mean? Like
Because you've had a lot of issues with this, but go ahead.
Well, I guess I'm kind of torn in my opinion about it.
Okay.
I guess it's where my school choice hat gets on, and just as far as how funding flows that a lot of people may not be aware of. So it's no secret I am a school choice proponent, not necessarily. Even though I am a charter school founder, it's not necessarily like charter versus traditional or anything like that. But I've always said, and I still stand by, the funding follows the child.
That's right.
So even though when they break away, funding will go out the door as well, right. But so will some of the expenses. So those are going to be expenses and costs that the new district will have to cover, and they will have the funding from the kids that they educate to cover it, if they know how to budget what they have correctly. As far as them making this agreement where they want to break off schools, but we still want access to EBR
Right.
schools and vice versa, I think the
That's the
kids of
issue.
EBR will not get the equivalent um, treatment as far as if EBR kids apply to their schools,
Mm-hmm.
because it's also based on space. So they, in that agreement, it says as long as it's space, they have to have some type of agreement worked out where they kids can go to each other's schools. Versus if EBR is all of a sudden short for funding and their kids
Mm-hmm.
apply to EBR schools, most likely EBR is going to accept them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they want to continue to participate in the magnet schools. So if they do participate in the magnet schools, EBR does get that funding. So that's funding that will not be lost because EBR will have the funding to educate the kids that attend the EBR schools and the magnet
But
schools.
that goes back to SB 65, where if there's a desire to take the magnet schools, because now you have an influx of students that may come from the St. George area. And again,
But what the bigger concern is, not only they take it, yeah, the money follows the child, but the local school board lose control over the governance of it,
right,
because once it becomes a charter school, then
right.
that governance of that board, charter board, will control what takes place with that
That's
magnet
right.
school,
That's
which
right.
may not align with the historical decisions and excellence
Mm-hmm.
that have made those schools what they are today. So that's the
Right.
scary part
And
about
definitely,
them being transformed or converted into particularly those schools.
right.
And the other part of it is with the breakaway that I have concern with. So it's not necessarily the funding, because I do
Mm-hmm.
think with proper budgeting they can be okay. It's
Sure.
more of, it makes our community vulnerable.
Vulnerable.
So communities of Black and brown children,
Mm-hmm.
especially when it's in a urban district where a large percent of the kids are considered economically disadvantaged,
Mm-hmm.
then that's when you don't see equitable
Equitable
treat
funding, use,
equitable funding,
right,
treatment, and resources.
right.
So as far as, so that means the EBR will, they already like a little over 80%
Mm-hmm.
minority population of
Right.
schools. Once St. George break away, if that happens, then that's
100%.
going to go up to close to 100%.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever there's 100% of Black and brown kids, that becomes a playground
For
for people who to take advantage
the
of that, or groups,
situation.
private groups or big money groups to take
Mm-hmm.
advantage of those districts to profit off of them
Mm-hmm.
without giving them the services that are the quality services that they should have. So if you
Yeah,
look at New Orleans,
that's what happened.
which was over, if the same thing, nearly 100% Black and brown kids. Once Hurricane Katrina came, it it was just a prime time to say, oh, we need to take this over now and chart it out in order to get the schools back up and running quickly. And because whenever things are chaotic, to me that seemed like a prime opportunity and window for them to get in and do whatever they want, because nobody's really watching or
Watching.
questioning because there's so much going on. But the
Yeah.
same thing with EBR. Once that breakaway happens, it's going to be chaotic. It's going to be because I haven't seen like a real transition plan. They're still trying to figure it out,
Mm-hmm.
and it's going to be prime opportunity to
Right.
turn Baton Rouge, which is the second largest
Right.
into
After
the
New
next New
Orleans.
Orleans. So it creates an opportunity for it to be not only almost 100% minority, but almost 100% economically disadvantaged, which is that prime
Vulnerability.
population of when you see a lot of charters come in and take over districts and schools in those type of communities.
Right. And so basically what this would do is also, it's really racial and economic segregation.
Mhm.
And so again, it drains the resources for EBR and it leaves them vulnerable for takeover for the whole district. And that goes back to the group that we spoke
Yeah.
of last week, where they really need to be out funding. I don't know if they need a pack or whatever, but it's also a slippery slope when you have a lot of charter induced areas, and then you have the traditional, and they're mixing different value systems, not necessarily right or wrong, but how
Mm-hmm.
do you work together? How will any major charter organization come out fighting with both fists for against St. George and for EBR, knowing that primarily it's an opportunity for them to become charter, and those same members of this organizations being the ones that operate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll definitely agree. So, um, because I haven't seen a real plan, I don't see just yet where it's an equitable deal. So I'm voting no for this
Yeah.
amendment, and that's what we recommend. But of course,
Yeah.
you guys vote for how you want, but we recommend vote no on Amendment 2.
So Amendment 3, we're going to move on. So right now we're voting no for one. We're voting for Amendment 1 with civil service power. We're voting for Amendment number 2, St. George, and that brings us to Amendment number 3, teacher pay
Mhm.
and education funds. So what does this do?
So, Amendment 3, Education Trust Fund. So, what they're trying to do here is the education trust funds right now is earmarked where the money can only be spent for educational programs. So they want to use this money to pay down debt for the retirement system. So the when teachers retire and they get their drop and all of the retirement benefits, it creates a liability for the state and the district. So if you work for a school district or the state and you pay into TRSL, you may notice that percentage
Mhm.
coming out your check is pretty
I've
high. It's
noticed.
like it's like 25%.
Yeah, it's high.
And that's a lot,
Yeah.
but they need to take that amount out in order to make sure that they're able to pay you those benefits once you retire, where you
Hmm.
can continue to get your salary and whatever benefits on top of that, like healthcare insurance that is continuing to rise. So they want to make this fund
Available.
available to them so that they can pay down the debt and they feel like, well, if we pay down the debt, maybe we don't have to take 25% out. We'll just take a lower percentage out and then we can use that for raises. But that's not a true raise, in my opinion,
Right.
because it's just replacing the savings. So you may not be paying the higher percentage, but you're still paying it out your check, and it's like it's packaged as a raise.
So for me, who is a current East Baton Rouge Parish employee paying into
Mhm.
the teachers' retirement system, I don't trust this at all.
Mhm.
For one thing, just saying pay in general, teacher raise, you don't know how much. There's no guarantee. They're not saying you're going to get a 25%. Is it sustainable? Is it a one-time raise? Will the teacher raise have priority over paying down the debt? What
Mhm.
if paying down the debt is so requires more funding than teacher raise, and then the teacher raises are left out?
Mhm.
I don't trust this system at all. I'm voting no. There's a such thing that my grandmother used to say about a bird in the hand and one in the air.
Mhm.
Amendment 1 is a bird in the air with no guarantees. So I
Yeah.
want to know. I'm going to stick with the bird that's in the hand, even though I'm paying 25%. I know where it's going, and I also don't want. I don't trust this administration to have access to those kind of funds. I would prefer knowing that it is in one place, that it is
Mhm.
designated for a particular purpose, nothing else. And if there was a gamble, I would gamble to stay where I am.
Yeah, yeah, because the probability with saying, "Oh, well, we may can use it for this, we may can use it for that,"
May.
is no guarantee. They will have to budget it. They will have to get it approved, and like Charlotte said, there's no guarantee that they will even use it for that. And even if they did, will you even see the raise?
Mhm.
Because you'll be paying, if you're paying
If
less than, yeah, if you get to pay less in retirement costs, um, is that, really considered a raise?
right.
So I believe they should go back to the drawing board, get a little more creative, by looking at other budget line items to identify areas where they can, give raises to teachers, or either, I know people don't want new taxes, but
Mhm.
that's really the
Yeah, it's totally impossible to at this point for us to redirect money. It's just not a good plan during this very volatile political climate.
Mhm.
So redirecting funds should be out of the question by all means right now. I'm close to retirement. I'm not willing to gamble. Then we have a situation where even our political system and traditional schools are being threatened and such that if God forbid, we end up in a fully chartered school, you've given away this money in hopes of a quote unquote teacher's pay that has
I
no
didn't think about
guarantee.
that. Yeah.
And then you end up, with under a charter school where they have to choice as to whether or not they're even going to stick with the teachers, Louisiana Teachers Retirement System.
Mm.
Hey, folks, stick with
Yeah,
what you know.
that's a good point.
Stick
I
with
didn't think
what you know.
about
Stick
that.
with what
Yeah,
you know.
that could be
Yes.
dangerous
Yeah.
because it
Vote
will
no,
be
teachers, all your
redundant
teachers.
if that
Right.
happens.
Right.
And
I've been in
then
that
and then after
situation
that, they
before.
will have access to it
There and the
if you
money is
go.
gone.
Yeah,
And the money is gone. All
yeah,
righty. Bottom line, it
yeah,
sounds hopeful, but does not deliver lasting support.
yes.
Also, vote no for amendment number 3.
Number three.
Number
Yeah, we
4.
recommend vote no.
All right.
All right. So yeah, amendment number four. So amendment four is it focuses on business inventory tax. You want to take that one?
Yeah, here we go. We're in Louisiana. We are definitely known for giving industry a break every opportunity and taking away any breaks from our consumers or our traditional people. So the business inventory tax, it kind of reminds me of ITIP. Where
Gotcha.
you get all these. They significantly give business a big boost in tax leniency. But what this would do is when you're giving a business or reducing or eliminating the business inventory tax, what you are also doing is reducing revenue from your local government, from your school, from your police, from your infrastructure. So again, the tax shifts from business to residents. You're adding a burden to residents, to small businesses, all for big business. So again, the benefits to larger businesses more than the small, and the local entrepreneurs are at risk again
Hmm.
because the biggest purchases for inventory are the larger companies.
So
The
this would
Exxons of
eliminate the property tax.
the
Uh,
inventory tax, the business part, the business tax for inventory.
yeah.
So right now, unless it's a nonprofit, you still have to pay taxes on your inventory.
And I don't understand why they would want to do this when they
They
keep
already
saying
have
that
I
they
they
need
need
more
money. You
money.
need money for schools. You say you need money for infrastructure. You say you need money for public safety. It's
Yeah,
a no-brainer. I mean,
yeah.
it's an oxymoron, really. So
So do
tax
you think
relief for
it's to
businesses.
attract more businesses?
They
But
keep
that's
saying that, but how many jobs are you getting for this?
that's true.
you
Yeah.
know so yeah, you're constantly saying that you're attracting businesses, but after a while you're getting more businesses, but the residents are leaving because we don't have anything else. So
Yeah.
it's not then you have to import people from other states
Or to
for
me,
these
are they find
jobs.
ways to pass it to the consumers, like
No
increasing
matter
the
what,
sales tax?
no
I
matter
think
what, that
last year, like
that that's
we
exactly
eating
what.
the makeup for that. So
Yeah, I
yeah.
just believe that tax. incentives for business shouldn't come at the expense of the community. And that's really what happens. It allows local government to reduce or eliminate, the property taxes on business inventory. It could lower the taxes for businesses, but it may also, without a doubt, lower the taxes for government. And everybody says we're struggling. I mean, are we
Yeah.
struggling or are we not, local government? And if so, every parish, every municipality should be like really saying no, 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 no.
Yes.
But are you afraid of state government, LED? What are you afraid of? At some point, you got to stand up for your local communities and your local government.
I agree. I
Yeah.
agree. So we recommending voting no on Amendment 4 as well.
Amendment 5. That's up.
So
Okay.
let's get to Amendment 5. This is an interesting one. Comes up in some type of way or form each year, it seems like, or
Yeah.
lately, I would say
Yeah.
the last few years.
Yeah.
And this amendment focuses on judges' retirement age.
Mhm.
So this amendment would raise the retirement age for judges from 70 to 75, giving them additional 5 years to be on the bench if they are at or around that age. So what are your thoughts on this? Do you think that the age requirement should be raised?
So first of all, I'm almost around the corner at 65, so I'm not discriminating over age. I'm not an ageism kind of person. What I believe is 60 years old should be it. I mean, I believe, first of all, most of the time when you're dealing with the legal system, people, before they get to the bench, oftentimes they've been practicing 10 years or whatever. And then they have an opportunity to be on the bench almost 30 years. In most areas, I don't know if in some municipalities whether there is where you don't have what is it called, where you after 3 terms you can't, or
Term limits?
term limits. I'm not sure about that, but at 70 years old, I think you should be ready to allow more people with a fresher perspective. I think 70 years old is mentoring age to me. It is a time where, you want to be able to pour into other lawmakers that are coming along. And from a perspective of a constituent, I would want to see new opportunity. I believe in new opportunities across the board, whether it's in business, whether it's in politics, whether it's in the school system. But since we're talking about the judgeship, after a while, at 70 years old, being able to pour into a diverse judgeship, being able to allow them to enter the system, I think the longer judges are in it, then it reduces the accountability. I'm just thinking about even your case, really. The longer judges are in office, the less people are willing to critique them. They're to, I'm sure you can't tell them anything at a certain, after they've been on the bench a certain time. I think that's a lot of high power careers, even whether it's doctors. And I'm looking at this from the point of how often new information comes about. So, a lot of times things change so frequently. The volume of legal paperwork and the thought mechanism, and I just feel,
So what do you think
without
about
trying to sound like I'm
So what do you think about the U.S. Supreme Court judges? Like they can stay on there for life,
right
until they're like 100. So
yes.
does
Well, one of the things, I don't know how many people work for them, and I don't know the mechanism. So I know that judges do have, I guess, law assistants and
law clerks? Yeah.
What else they have? I don't know.
They have, at least a staff of two, the law clerk and then the administrative person that kind of runs the office.
And how about the Supreme Court?
I don't
Yeah,
know, but I do know that the Supreme Court is just not any judge. Like
right.
usually, well, historically,
Uh-huh.
they just like the federal judges. Just my experiences with the case,
Mm-hmm.
the intellect of judges at the federal court, not talking about anybody,
Mm-hmm.
but it is a difference. It is a
Mm-hmm.
difference in intellect, experience, seriousness, of how they take the cases, how they handle the cases on a federal level than what you see in state court at the 19th JDC. And I don't have much
Yeah,
experience in city court to
right.
compare, but particularly in state court,
Mm-hmm.
it's like those judges just they can do whatever, whether it
Right.
follows the law, it doesn't follow the law. They have a lot of I see a lot of unchecked ex parte
Mm-hmm.
communications that happen that go unchecked.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of political,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Willing and dealing. Yeah.
exactly.
So,
Versus on the federal level,
yeah.
those judges, just my experience with those judges, is they're just very high level, very thorough,
Mm-hmm.
very smart, like extremely smart scholars. Just when you
Mm-hmm.
look at their
I think
history,
scholars is a
yeah,
good word.
yeah, and I can
Mm-hmm.
understand. And they're appointed by the presidents of the United States. So, and even after the president leave, those judges stay there. So nobody can move those judges unless they
Mm-hmm.
move themselves. So I can understand how they got the attention of a United States president to
Mm-hmm.
serve in that on that bench. So anybody is not just whoever gets elected is going to serve in that important role. So when you talk about the judge's retirement age, we're talking about state court, which means that they may not have all of the capabilities and the that you see on the federal level, the judges that
Mm-hmm.
are appointed because they're elected by the people. Not saying that they do or don't, but that's one of the differences. So when you have where judges can serve endlessly and they were elected, maybe we do need to either put some stricter term limits in place or an age restriction that can protect the integrity of the judicial process.
So currently, I believe if you turn 70 while you're already holding that position, you can end. You don't have to leave the bench. You could stay to your term end. So let's say I don't know if these are 5 or 6 year terms.
I don't
Yeah, I
know.
can't
Yeah.
remember, but let's just say you get elected at age 69 and you're turning 70 in 6 months, you still will be able to work out that 5 or 6 years. So you're still 70, 75. However, if you're 70 years old, then at that point you would need to leave or you can't run again, after that. And for me, at the one of the reasons why it matters for me at the state level,
Mhm.
both something that I've observed and being in a political role, and maybe just even in Louisiana, for one thing, that would be a place where you can have a bottle stop is where there's a limited flow of change, where other lawyers can move up, whether it's to the Court of Appeals,
Mhm.
whether it's to some of the other judgeships, usually from the states, from the state, that's when they move up. But if you're staying there forever, there's a bottleneck. That's the word I was looking for. The
Mhm.
other thing is, I don't care what anybody says, judges have to be elected. They go from being the colleagues of lawyers
Mhm.
to being the judge over lawyers.
Yeah.
You can't just erase those relationships.
Yeah.
You can't just act like, oh, I don't know you anymore, you know.
Yeah, that's true.
And so I don't like that kind of commingling, if you will. I'm going from what I've observed, and I don't know if this is fair for the amendment, but I don't like what judges that the free will at the state level, where attorneys are in and out of the back behind the courtroom. They're in and
Yeah.
out fraternizing with the
Judge.
state judges. I don't like that.
Yeah.
When I go in a courtroom, I want an impartial judge. And if I have to keep him for into perpetuity, that's a problem for me.
Mhm.
Because that
Yeah.
means I have that increases the number of times I might have to go to that same judge because he's there too long or she is there too long. If I know that, you can be in hell a minute if you know that a cup of water is coming. You don't have to stay forever. I'm sorry. I know I go. Don't erase that. I know I'm going too long, but I just in the whole thing, it judges don't need to serve longer past. I just think
If they're elected, you're
if
saying.
they're elected, right? I think if they're elected, they should at 69 stay your time. But at 70, you should not be able to still be running for office. And I say that even if it's for me. Again, I'm almost 65. So I I just don't think I don't even know why a judge would want to. I let's get back to the seriousness of it. Um, I
I
just
don't
think we
know.
need fresh perspectives. We need judges with fresh perspectives. I think that we need judges that that are at the point of pouring into those that are beneath them, or and I just think that 70 is a nice round number to be willing to serve in another capacity, whether it's back practicing law, whether it's teaching, whether it's nonprofits work, whether it's community service. There are so many options, and whether you're a judge or not, you're going to be called judge to the day you die.
I just, yeah, I don't, and I guess I'm not torn, but when you just think about
Yeah,
like again the Supreme Court, like they stay
it's
on
no
to their
comparison.
100, and then some of my counsel
They are
on the
older.
team, yes, and they are very sharp.
Yes,
They run circles around a lot of attorneys
and
that
judges.
and judges that are younger than them,
Yeah.
and I believe they have their character would make them a great judge if they decided to be a judge today or tomorrow. So I don't know
Are
if
they over 70?
yes.
Okay. Do you think they would want to run for office at 70?
But are we talking about it goes
It's
back to the
personal.
why of why we're saying
Yeah.
that 75 is too old or 71
And
is
so
too
I didn't
old.
use that word.
Or well, not the word, but that's what this amendment is about. They're using age as a barrier of whether somebody qualify or not to sit on the bench. So I think that we shouldn't be looking at age. We should be looking at term limits. We should be looking at.
Are
We
there
should be,
term limits?
and that's. I guess we should have researched that
Yeah.
first because that's a good question. And just looking at the point of if they're capable or not, because having fair judges, having judges
Hmm.
that can't be compromised. Someone wise told me that you should hire your doctors young and your attorneys old. And
Mm.
at first I'm like, well, why? I didn't understand why, and I understand why. They're like because doctors they have the most because I would have thought opposite, but
Hmm.
they have the most steady hands and access to most recent practices and latest medical developments. And the older your lawyer is, they have more knowledge on case law, they have more experience on um, just law in general. And case law is used every day seriously, no matter how old it is. I mean, a lot of I see counsel citing cases from 1920s and 30s, and they as if it some of it stand today. A lot of our U.S. constitutional law is settled in law that was written hundreds of years ago. So the it's important to have that knowledge. I think is a benefit because the longer you're around to see law practice and see how it's interpreted and applied, it makes you sharper and more valuable. But I do think it needs to be something done about judges who stay on the bench too long. That and especially if they're older and less patient, because I've also seen that the
Hmm.
older judges get less patient and talk to those attorneys like they or nothing. And I could not believe it was happening. And attorneys didn't seem to be offended by it for whatever reason. I don't know if that's something they're used to, but I thought maybe the judge is getting less patient and just very groggy. So when that happens, you need, younger blood possibly on the bench that can um, make sure that our judicial system is fair and equitable as possible.
But I've also seen, and I've seen this even in education, that a lot of times when younger professionals move into those top positions, whether it's a principal or whatever, then, or even a judgeship, they're like totally arrogant. And like I said, you can't tell them anything because I'm the judge. And so I don't know, I guess it's a personal thing, but I did look up that no, there's no term limits for Louisiana district judges. They are selected to 6-year terms in partisan elections and can run for re-election indefinitely.
Oh, wow.
However, they are required to retire upon reaching 70 years of age. Now, the question I have, because as you said, this topic has been going on at least for 5 years. Why hasn't anyone put in term limits?
That's interesting. Yeah, can you look that up?
So it almost looks like it's almost like it's. Let me tell you what this looks like because they haven't. This looks like this is for particular people or judges.
Yeah, because what if someone doesn't get elected for the first time until
Right.
they're 60 something? So it's harder to say, well, it's time for them to retire after a certain age versus just putting term limits on
Right.
there.
I just it's really
Odd and strange. Why
yeah,
aren't there
why aren't there just
term
term
limits for
limits?
judges? So if anybody know that,
And
put that.
yeah, and this is the second, yeah. So let us know because for me, I always play devil's advocate, and I think it sounds like it's who it's like it's for a particular individual or individuals versus it's a practice that makes sense, for the
No.
community. Wow,
Yeah,
interesting.
but I mean, even though
I'm
this,
still voting no though.
I am too.
Yeah,
I am too. Even though this, I think, can be looked at 1,000 different ways.
right.
I am voting no for Amendment 5 for various reasons. But I do think that this topic in general needs to be looked at closer.
Mhm.
So when you step back and look at everything that we talked about today, SB 65, remember that is going to the Senate floor this week. So please call your legislators. This is about community voice in traditional public schools and protecting that voice. The constitutional amendments, we want you to vote informed. All
Yeah.
5 of them, we're recommending vote no on all 5 of them. And SB 256
Yes.
is the amendment that, I mean, not the amendment, the
Reduction.
bill that eliminates the position in New Orleans targeting an individual. So whenever legislation
Yeah.
is made that targets a specific individual, is bad law,
And this is
a bad
going to the
bill.
House now, correct? Did you
Yes,
say
I
that?
believe it passed the Senate, and it has to go to the House. It had the committee has to vote on it. If it passed committee, then it'll go to the House floor. But we need to start speaking up about these things. So start calling your House representative now about Senate Bill 256 to vote no, so that this particular act won't take precedent where our lawmaking process could be utilized as a weapon against individuals. And that's one of the things we've been saying. That's one of the things that activated me and my passion to speak out against the legislative process being used for wrongdoing instead of to strengthen the policies of our state, and not for self gain. So get involved, stay informed, and let's make a change everywhere we can by first becoming aware and speaking up.
Yes. So in our closing, we just
Mhm.
again, want to remind you the reason we are here is to really empower you that you do have a voice.
Mhm.
You do have an opportunity, a will to make a difference. There is no Calvary, you are the Calvary. And that is why we're here. One of the things been Sunday. When we talked, I said maybe we should call it Sunday dinner, is because traditionally, people would sit down, families would sit down during dinner and talk about current events, what's going on, and plan their week. So we're jump starting what we hope to be a discussion with you and your family, where you talk about these bills, where you talk about voting, and we want to be part of your dinner table, that you give this information to your family, your friends, make it an everyday conversation. So we'll start your week off Sunday with these topics, and we want you to tell at least one person
Yes.
every week, every day of the week, what you learned today. Do your own research.
Yes.
And we're just happy that you're tuning in.
Yes, so stay informed, pay attention, and most importantly, use your voice. And thank you, and we will see you next time.
When
Bye.
the community speaks, things happen.
Things happen. Bye.